Everybody, I'm making this video to show you how Romeo displays some of his PSSM2 symptoms in his transition from trot to canter. It is quite difficult to hold a steady contact with Romeo because he is a head shaker, and it's actually really difficult to sit to during these struggles in his transition as well. So please don't be judging any of the riding. It would be the same whether it was my niece, whether it was me, whether it was you, whether it was somebody else. We do our best. So that aside, let's take a look at Romeo's movement. Sometimes it displays really subtly, and other days it's really obvious. Before I found out that it was PSSM2, many times I would know that something was wrong, but I couldn't just place it. I'd sense that he looked a little bit stiff, he looked a bit off. Was he lame? Was he not? Now I've got the knowledge and the recognition, having seen other people share their stories and the similarities between these horses that are PSSM2 positive, I'm able to recognise it so much easier now. And I think to myself, of course he is lame, of course he is. But sometimes you can look for so long, and because it can be really subtle, you just don't know. So in this video, I'm going to show you how it shows up in Romeo. So the first thing that's going on here is he is quite behind the leg, a little bit reluctant to move forward. And of course the head shaking, which does settle down when he's eating his supplements. This isn't actually the worst that it ever is. Just before we asked him to canter on this rein this time, this is the second time. The first time he was just stumbling, he couldn't get it. So this is his second time, and then the third time gets a bit easier. So what you can see is it shows up as being slightly disunited, stiff behind, the tracking up's quite short and choppy. And as you saw, just as he came down to the trot from the canter, he really falls out from the back end. So here now you're going to see him struggle a little bit with his upward transition. He does tend to head shake just before we ask him for that canter lead, struggling to find it there, and then he's needed the toilet, which has made it harder for him as well. The more that's going on, the more difficult it is. If you were to introduce a pole there, that'd just completely, he'd completely struggle. Poles can be really, really difficult for him to navigate. Okay, so we've asked him again here. Each time gets a little bit easier. It's like he warms up. However, on his worst days, we wouldn't pursue it. We wouldn't ask him to do anything more than a walk. So for a moment, we're almost achieving quite a normal, natural canter. However, it's never maintained for very long. And as you can see here, he sort of falls back down into a very choppy trot. The issue really does seem to come from behind his stifle in his hocks and his back end movement, really. This here is what I call his little jig jog. We do this quite a lot actually to warm Romeo up. He's very comfortable doing his little jig jog, so we do often let him do that. It really is important actually not to get disheartened when the symptoms return, even if you've seen improvement and they come back and they come and they go. It is a long-term process, and each time it happens you will learn something more. So please don't be disheartened or discouraged if you see improvement and then they seem to be regressive and go back. It is just part of the process. So what's happening here is I'm asking Romeo to go into a canter, and this is what he does often. Some people would say it's a balance issue, but I know that it's a bit deeper than that. I'm going to show you that again in slow-mo. If you just look carefully at his hind legs, how they both push off the floor at the same time and bunny hop. It's not all bad though, because since I made these videos and I started supplementing him, I have seen an immense improvement in him. The past couple of weeks he has gone back symptomatic, but like I said, I've not been able to get those minerals into him, so that could be a reason why. So now we're going to look at lunging him on his other rein. This is particularly worse, and it's something that he does on his left rein when we're lunging. So at the moment he's having his jig jog. I am going to ask him to up his gear a bit, move a bit forward and out. So when I'm asking him to move forward now, he's bringing his head round to the left, turning and kicking out at his back end. He physically cannot up his speed, whether it's into a more of a working trot or a canter. As Romeo's owner, it is really hard to see him struggle like this. It's like he physically cannot do it. So for display purposes, I did ask him again in this video. I don't pursue it ordinarily when he's having a bad day. But here you will see clearly when I ask him to up the gear again, how his head comes round and swings to his near side, and his hindquarters come up, and he has a hop as he struggles to navigate his way into the canter or into more of a working trot. His body's just struggling to do that. FYI, Romeo does have an osteopath who comes out to him regularly, who helps him with tightness in his shoulders and his back. But ultimately, this problem continues. Another fun fact, I do know how to lunge. The only reason why it's so floppy is because he's inconsistent on my hand, and usually I'd be using two hands just to adjust the rein, but while I've got the phone in my hand, it's impossible for me to do that. Otherwise, the rein definitely would not be as floppy. When he's more consistent, obviously it goes better. When he's on the other rein, there's a lot less floppiness, but that's because he tucks his head out to his near side when he's on the right rein, which I'll show you in the next part of the video. Ooh, good boy, walk on. Just want to stop, don't you? Keep moving. So we've changed the rein, and as you can probably see if you watch closely, Romeo tends to put his head towards the left when he's on the right rein, and when he's on the left rein he still brings his head into the left. So generally sometimes he can get a little bit heavy on your hand this way when he's having a bad day, because it's like he needs that extra space to lean into the left to escape whatever feeling it is that's happening for him. This looks quite good for a minute. Good lad. Doing your best, aren't you? Good boy. You're proving me wrong now. But you can still see, obviously. And trot on. Good boy. Walk on. Good boy. Hi, babe. And this is another of Romeo's party tricks. He can walk round for a considerable amount of time with his nose dragging through the sand. Actually, I don't force him to stop doing this, because for whatever reason he's doing it, it seems to make him more comfortable, whether it's like stimulating his nose or... Good boy, Romeo. I don't think it's the stretch, I think it's more to do with it actually touching his nose.
Walk on, lad. Good boy. Must be a bit sandy down there, Romeo. Is it a bit sandy down there? You over the pole this time, Rose? Watch out, there's a ball coming. Good boy.
If you watch us for long enough, you'll see that, to be honest, I'm really patient with Romeo. I'm never in a rush, I never force him, I'm not shouting at him. Honestly, in the past, there has been conflict between us both where I've pushed him when I shouldn't have done, and it really doesn't help him at all. And now I know what I know. I'm just so grateful that I've stuck by him and not forced him or pushed him or done things that other people tried to say were good things to do. I always trusted my own judgment. And I am seeing a lot of improvement. These symptoms that you see in here, I have had a lot of improvement since I've been treating him with his vitamins. This isn't going to apply to every PSSM2 case, but for a lot of you it will, and that's just to show you that it's not the end of the road with your PSSM2 horses. There is a lot to look forward to with the correct management, perseverance, patience. There is things to look forward to in the future with your horse.
And when you're ready, back down into walk. Good boy, Romeo.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for watching our video. I really hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask and I'll do my very best to get back to you as soon as possible.